Hey everybody, in this video we'll review how to enter sample data into the database using Graphite Studio. The difference between seed data and sample data is that seed data will move into production and become part of the project fabric, whereas sample data should only be used for testing or demo purposes and hence will reside outside of the project. Let's look at some of the models that we've entered into this project. First, we have an enumeration called body style, which has some entries here. And then we have an automobile model entity, which has model year, name, style, and trim. Style is the body style enumeration we just looked at. Then we have automobile make, which has a list of automobile model called models. It has a name property and an origin property. There are a couple of behaviors that we're going to look at before we show how sample data is set up. First, let's look at automobile model. In the behaviors category here, there's a behavior called create, which creates an automobile model given some inputs that are primitives coming in as inputs to this process. Next, there's another behavior called create in automobile make, which similarly takes in some inputs, creates an automobile make, fills out the automobile make, and passes it out as an output. It also contains an add model behavior where we pass in and out an automobile make and some properties for a model. We pass in those properties into the create behavior for the model, and then we add it to the list on automobile make. Graphite inserts sample data via behaviors that are invoked during the database creation process. Let's look at one of these behaviors. If we go to the sample data category, there's an entity called data loader, in which we have a behavior called populate, make, and model. This behavior has an output of automobile makes, which is of type automobile make. And so the way that sample data works is that it invokes this behavior, and then the outputs of this behavior become saved to the database. Any entity properties on automobile make also get saved, and so it works just like a traditional save shape would, in that the changes get cascaded down the entity structure. So the rest of these shapes just call the other behaviors that we showed previously, and it adds automobile make to the output list of automobile makes. In order for create database to invoke this behavior during the creation of the database, we have to install the database folder in the project. To do that, I will now run database folder installer. So now when we go to Windows Explorer, we now have a database folder, and we have a ProcessList.txt file. So let's go edit that in Notepad++. So here we're going to replace the entity with the entity name of the behavior that we are using to populate the database with sample data. And then we'll replace the behavior name here. So it'll be data loader process dot populate make and model. So now we'll save that and we'll navigate back to Graphite. We will perform another build. And then after that's done, we'll regenerate the database. Database has been replaced. So now let's go to SQL Server Management Studio. Here we have automobile make with an entry and models with a couple of entries.